Hello, Wasting Sanity here. Um, should you buy Guild Wars 2 months after release? Probably not. Why? I recently purchased Guild Wars 2 in an attempt not only to have a game to play with my significant other, but just to have an MMO again that promoted community, teamwork, or at least people coming together to kill big things for some nice loot. After the recent trial week that ArenaNet had put on, I was interested enough to actually buy the title and dive straight in. I noticed the population had dropped dramatically after the free trial was over. There were still a good amount of people on, but it seemed like it was merely like one third the numbers that are originally there was on the weekend. It didn't feel like a ghost town, so I was kind of fine with that. Since I figured most people are probably up in the 80s, but once I hit about 20, I realized that these new areas I was going to, were rather vacant. Were there more people actually in the earlier zones, as far as like the basically like 5 to 10 area? They were running what's called dailies. If you look up in the corner here, you'll see there's a daily right there, and it's basically quests that you have that will give you items, and it's all provided for all levels. And it'll basically allow you to you'll end up getting a reward basically for running dailies. So most people run dailies earlier in the day, or earlier in levels, I should say, also and early in the day, as well, to avoid any possible like servers going down, things like that. They'll actually set you back. Um, so as I started to get farther away from the people who are running the dailies, it ended up to where I found myself soloing elite and veteran type creatures like you see here. And there was also champions, which are like even worse than elites. And basically it was virtually impossible to fight those because they would two-shot you. So that was no fun. They would two-shot you, you go to a prone position, and you have to fight your way up. And in most cases, they just two-shot you, and then they finish you off. So that, it kind of killed the game in that sense, because there was no one around to assist me. Or in some cases, there were a few people around in the zone, but they would respawn, but they would actually like not commit to the fight or not even show up. So I forged ahead doing what I could. But once I hit that 20 mark, I proceeded to get the reward I really deserved, and that was actually a refund from an ArenaNet. I decided that at that point, you know what, this game is far gone. There's not enough people playing it. The game wasn't built properly to. Well, I mean, I like the game, but I believe the numbers when you choose like the server were based off the total accounts, not actually the current active players. So, I mean, all the accounts for the U.S. servers said they were maxed out, as far as like they had a high population count, but what I physically saw did not reflect this. It was rather misleading. I had looked around for players grouped together in some random area hidden away as if there was some elusive spot that I didn't know about. I could not find any. I even went to the main city, which connected all the races together, and it was rather vacant, besides like the NPCs, of course. There was once in a while I saw like one or two people kind of floating around, but for the most part it was really vacant. I even tried out PvP, and there wasn't a whole lot of people on my server. Most of the fights that I saw going on, it was kind of one-sided. So for a server that had like a high population count, it was rather empty. Basically, like, if you were looking at this game and you haven't bought it yet, I would say don't. And the reason why is because of the fact that I think a lot of the people that used to play this game don't play this game anymore. And the low population kind of kills it. They had equivalent to a free-to-play population count. Not saying that free-to-play population count is bad, but the overall build of the game, it never took in the long-term goals for the game. It only had the short-term goals for the game as far as getting the game built and made and created and for people to play. Now, if it had taken in more of the long-term goals, they should have figured out a way to... Well, here, let me give you an example. If you've ever played the original game EverQuest, not 2, I'm talking about the very first EverQuest. If you've ever played that, here's a prime example. There was an area called the Oasis. Now, in the Oasis, it was built for, if I remember correctly, level 12s to go through and kill alligators. There came in, and you kill all those alligators, and you could get up to like level 20-ish in that area. There was no quests, really. It was just basically farming. Now, there was also other creatures in the area as well, and these creatures were level 35 to 40-something. I think it was like 42, maybe 45, somewhere around there. And these were specters and sand giants. There was also skeletons, which were lower level, which were on par with like Cayman, maybe a little bit tougher. But it was a multi-level zone that was staggered to where you had the lower level, and then also you had a mid-range level area. So that way, it would end up to where the zone was used twice, at least, by like, as far as within that level range. That wasn't the only like level type range on the planet. It's just, it was a good setup because high levels would come to the area. They would help lower levels when they needed to. And it always felt populated. There was always people there, even whether there's lower or higher. And most of the world was like that, unless it was like high-level dungeons, which in most cases, when you're in a high-level dungeon, there's nothing but high levels. But anyways, if they had more of that in this game, I think that would have been more appealing and more based off of the longevity of the game, and I think a lot of people would be playing it more, because EverQuest was called EverCrack for a reason. It was built really well, and it hasn't really been duplicated since. And I wouldn't even put WoW in the same bracket as it. WoW only had me hooked for 3 months, and that was it. So anyways, back to the thing, as far as Guild Wars 2 goes, it's a good game, but unfortunately, the population is not there anymore. So if you're looking for MMO to play and group up with a lot of people, unless you're bringing the people with you, and you know a lot of people who are playing already, I would recommend you not getting it.